नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों, आज हम बात करने वाले हैं अगेन विद कर्नल प्रदीप सक्सेना। इफ यू हैड सीन माय प्रीवियस वीडियो ऑन हिम, he had spoken exactly on his unit, the 82 Light Regiment, in their participation in the Bangladesh Liberation War right from the month of June to the end of the war in December. He was giving fire support for the Mukti Bahini and also for the Indian Armed Forces who went in to fight the Pakistani military. Now, today in this program, I am going to talk with him regarding the 120mm Brandt mortars, French Brandt mortars, and his unit was actually equipped from World War II to I think prior to 1965 war or maybe later after that with 4.2-inch mortars. Then these Brandt mortars were introduced into service. I think it's still in service. So this equipment, which had done fairly very well in the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, will be explained about by Colonel Pradeep Saxena, who fought the war as a second lieutenant, used this equipment extensively in the war. So let's welcome Colonel Pradeep Saxena to our program today to talk on the 120mm French Brandt mortars.
As you were a second lieutenant at that time, you had some pretty much of an expertise on the 120mm Brandt mortars. So I would like to start with a brief description of it. How did you get introduced to the equipment and how did you familiarize with it? If you could go ahead with that, sir.
Okay. To begin with, I am Colonel Pradeep Kumar Saxena, a second generation officer who is from the 35th NDA and the 44th IMA course. I was commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery in December 69, and after completing my YOS course at School of Artillery Devlali in June 1970, I joined 82 Light Regiment on 6th June 1970 at a place called Hachura, which was on the foothills of Arunachal. Those days it was known as Nifa. It was here that I got my baptism in the handling of the 120 Brandt mortar. We had been given a week's exposure during the last week of our young officers course in Devlali, but I actually got around to handling the 120mm Brandt mortar only when I reached the regiment, because then the gun, as we call, it was available to me 24/7 into 365.
Okay.
Now I would like to put certain things here in perspective for you and for all those viewers who will be seeing this, that in the artillery we have different equipments. We have heavy, we have medium, we have field, and we have light. And we have the equipment varies from 155 mm to 105 mm to 75/24 mm, 76 mm, and 3.7 mm, and 120 Brandt mortar. But all equipment, for uniformity's sake, are called guns. 120, though technically is a Brandt mortar, when we use it in our gunnery parlance or as a gunner, we call it a gun only, and we don't say 120 Brandt mortar. We say 120 Brandt gun.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing is that though it fires bombs, okay, which are quite different
Mortar
in design
bombs.
and shape.
Right, sir.
Yeah, which are quite different in shape and design from the artillery shell. We similarly once again call them rounds only or shells only. We don't call them bombs. Okay. The infantry, which has got 81mm mortars, caliber lower than us, they use bombs like us, but they are called bombs only. They don't call them shells. Okay. So this is basically to ensure uniformity within the regiment of artillery, because we keep switching over from one regiment to another, and it becomes a little awkward when we change equipment and the procedure remains the same. So we do not want to mix up the procedures, and it is for this reason that even a mortar in the artillery is called a gun. Even a rocket is called a gun, and even a normal gun, that is 105 mm, is called a gun. Now, the other thing which I would like to tell you before we get onto the main topic of yours, that we have different types of equipment. The 120 Brandt mortar is a high angle fire equipment.
Okay.
It goes to an apex of about 35,000 feet, and then, like a parabola, it comes and lands on the ground. It makes a whistling sound.
Acha.
And the reaction time is there because the time of flight, that is from the time the round leaves the barrel till the time it hits the target or at the point of impact, the time is comparatively longer. That is because of the parabolic trajectory. In the case of guns and rockets, the trajectory is flat. It's more like a bullet.
This.
So what happens is, so it's the time of flight from the point the shell leaves the barrel and the time it hits the target is considerably less. Though for long distances, like in a 130 or 155, when the gun is firing at the long range of 30 kilometers, the shell goes into a more or less parabolic mode so that it gains maximum distance. In fact, it is customary that when we are firing in the ranges, that we issue a NOTAM, that is notice to the aircrafts, that we are going to be firing in the ranges, so that any aircraft which is overflying the ranges or the area doesn't do so and avoid. Otherwise, it is quite possible that it could get hit by one of our shells and fall.
Right.
Okay, so that is there. The other thing which I would like to tell you is that in contrast to the mortars and rockets, the field artillery guns, they are capable of taking on tanks. They have the anti-tank capability, as we say. Okay, because they have flood trajectory, in their inherent in their design, so they can impact a tank or an armored personnel carrier with the utmost of effectiveness. Whereas in the case of a Brandt mortar or a rocket, the impact is considerably less, unless and until a bomb falls directly on a tank. Then of course it will damage or even destroy. But a rocket is more of a area weapon. So if there are tanks in that, they will get hit, they may get damaged. But the destruction of a tank will be more effective in a flat trajectory gun, that is 3.7 inch, 5.5 inch, or 7.2 inch, or 130 or 15 mm or 155. You must have seen a lot of visuals of the direct firing on Tiger Hill by 155 mm guns during the Kargil War.
Right.
That is what I'm trying to convey to you with the flat trajectory impact. Okay. Now, to ensure that there is a certain degree of anti-tank protection, the mortar regiments, the regiments which are equipped with mortars and which are equipped with the rockets, and that includes today's Spurs and Pinakas. In the good old days, it was only Grad PM21. They have got anti-tank weapons to protect them, and we are trained to use them. In our time, during the 71 war, we had 3.5 inch rocket launchers of the World War II vintage.
Shoulder mounted, sir.
Yeah, yeah, shoulder mounted. And they were also there with the anti-tank platoon of the infantry battalion in those days. Today, the equipment which has replaced them is the Carl Gustav 84 mm Carl Gustav, which enables a much closer contact with the tank and ensures a near 100% destruction. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, now let me just share with you that the origin of the 120 Brandt mortar is French, and it has been produced under license in India from the time it was inducted.
Okay.
Sometime in 63, 64 when it was inducted. To my unit 82 Light Regiment, this equipment was given in March 1966 when it was in Firozpur and it had returned from the 1965 war. Okay. Now, that is with the background of the equipment which I have readily available for you. Now you can shoot whatever questions you want to have. You can ask me and I will try and answer them to the best of my knowledge.
Now, sir, I think you have explained already a lot of it. Still, I would like to go through how you got introduced to it and how you used it before the war started, because I think the 82 Light, it was deployed, I think, for mostly helping out the other infantry units in counter-insurgency operations. Then it got shifted
No,
to...
no. The 120 Brandt mortar is generally not used in counter-insurgency operations.
Okay.
It is the infantry 81 mm mortars of the infantry battalion which is used because they are integral to the infantry battalion. Very, very rarely would the 120 Brandt mortar be utilized in counter-insurgency. Let me just give you an idea. As I mentioned, I joined the unit at Harshura, and there I was given one gun on my charge, or that is, as you say, and I was made responsible for it. I was made responsible to learn every nitty-gritty of it, as well as maintain the gun and produce it for inspections. So every day in the morning after PT, I used to put on my tangris, that is the overalls, and go to the gun, which was there in the gun park, where we keep our guns. We call it a gun park. We used to go there, and I had one gun on my charge, which was the number one gun of the battery I was in, which was cubic battery, also designated as 151 light battery. The number one gun was my responsibility. Now, here I would like to just mention briefly that any regiment in the artillery has 3 batteries, and each battery has got 6 guns. Okay. The 4th battery is the headquarter battery, which is a mix of operational and administrative environment to control the 3 batteries, and the adjutant is the one who controls the fire of the 3 batteries of the regiment.
Okay.
In the battery, it is the gun position officer, mostly the second lieutenant or the lieutenant, who controls the fire of 6 guns. So we have that person is called the GPO, gun position officer.
Right.
Yeah. And he has got 6 guns under him, and each gun is divided into 2 troops. Each battery is divided, further subdivided into 2 troops, Alpha troop and Bravo troop. And one troop is overseen by the battery subaltern, who is the second lieutenant again, but junior to the GPO. And the Alpha troop is looked after by the GPO. But actually the whole gun position is looked after by the GPO, while the battery subaltern acts as the relief to the gun position officer. Now the significance of this relief is there that tomorrow, if there is a requirement for moving the guns to another position, The gun position officer will go to the new location to deploy. But at the same time, guns may be still firing and may be still in action. So the battery subaltern will carry on the responsibilities of the GPO and keep the guns engaged. It should not happen that when the GPO is gone, the guns become silent or fall silent and they are no longer in action. So guns once deployed are never in a silent mode, they're always in an action mode. Okay. Now, each gun has got a detachment, as we call it, that is the gunners who are there. There are normally 5 gunners in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number one is the detachment commander.
Okay.
Number 2 is the loader. He loads the shell into the barrel of the mortar.
Okay,
Yeah.
into the mortar. Right.
Yeah. And number 3 is the one who lays the gun through the dial sight, through the optical system, and lays it onto the target given to it by the forward observation or the observation officer or the OP officer, or given by the higher headquarters, and he then lays the gun on that. 4 and 5 are the people who are reserve, also act as reserve to this 1, 2, 3, plus they also act as the ammunition in charge. They keep preparing the ammunition while the gun, these 1, 2, 3 fire the guns. In the number 4 is the ammunition number 1, and number 5 is the Nayak, who is the gun number 2. He is the 2IC of the gun. So should the gun number 1, who is a Havaldar, he become the casualty, the Nayak takes over the detachment and carries on the responsibilities. Okay. So these are the 5 people who are there in a detachment. Now the weight of the gun is actually total 550 pounds.
Okay.
550 kgs. My apologies. 550 kgs. Now this is, when I say 550 kgs, it includes 5 parts to be precise. The carriage, that's the wheels, the barrel, the tripod on which it is deployed, the front legs or the legs as we call it, and the base plate, that is on which the barrel rests. Okay. The 5th and the last part of the accessories which come with it, that is the dial sight and other markers and other equipment, etc. So those are the 5 major parts of a gun. I can give you the breakdown of each part, this thing. The barrel is 68 kgs.
Okay.
The base plate is 80 kgs. The tripod is 86. And the rest of the weight is of the carriage. Okay. Now, when we are moving for deployment, we are normally moving towed by a vehicle on the roads.
Okay.
So the carriage is required because the gun can be carried in a vehicle, but it is advisable to carry it towed behind a vehicle with it like a trailer.
And it's very
so
heavy.
That
very heavy. You'll need a vehicle.
Yeah, half a ton. And the vehicle which is towing can carry 36 rounds in its body, so that when the gun comes into action, when it deploys and comes into action, 36 rounds are immediately available for it to fire while the rest of the ammunition catches up. Each mortar is authorized 200 rounds, 100 rounds at first line and 100 rounds at second line. That is, first line is which is there with the gun, and second line is which is there in the reserve.
Okay.
So 36 of them are carried with the detachment, when as we call it, on weapon. First line is again divided into on weapon and in the ammunition, what you call wagon line area, and the rest of the ammunition is again in the wagon line area, but some distance behind. Now, wagon line area is the one which is some distance away from the gun area, 1 to 1.5 kilometers away, where all the vehicles of the battery or the regiment are located together and proper perimeter defense is organized for them. For the gun, there are three light machine guns to organize its perimeter defense, and two of them go to the battery wagon line if the battery is deployed independently. In case the regiment is deployed collectively, then one of the five LMGs comes back to the battery, and three remain in the ground role, and one of them then gets deployed in the anti-aircraft role.
Acha.
Okay. So out of the five, one remains in the wagon line, one becomes in the anti-aircraft role, and three are on the ground defense role. This is to make sure that when the, God forbid, if the enemy or any raiding party attacks, you are in a position to take them on yourself till help comes to you.
Till the infantry arrives, right?
No, till help comes to you. It need not necessarily be infantry. It could be another artillery unit, but there is the till help comes to you.
Right. And I think the protection you are getting, it's almost like protection given to at any light artillery unit.
No, there is no protection. You are just open with just like you and I are sitting today.
Right.
There is no protection is there. The only protection is that when we have deployed, we dig trenches for what we call is the defense perimeter of the gun area, and in our parlance, military parlance, we call it local defense. So we dig trenches, 2-man trenches, 3-man trenches. Normally the light machine gun has 3-man trenches, and the others have 2-man trenches. So around the periphery of the gun, the GPO goes and deploys the trenches. And in case of threat to the gun area, the battery subaltern has got a certain QRT earmarked, and he goes and takes on the threat.
Okay.
Takes on the threat while the GPO continues with the primary task of continuing with the firing.
Understood.
Okay. Now I come to the ammunition. In the 71 war, we had only two types of ammunition: the HE high explosive ammunition and the smoke ammunition.
Smoke. Acha, acha.
Yeah, high explosive ammunition was of the two types. One was with fuse and one was with cap and one was without cap.
Acha.
The one without cap was the one which was used against troops in the open, and one was with the cap. That is where it was used for fortifications like bunkers.
Bunkers.
Okay.
What was the
Concrete
purpose of the
bunkers.
cap, sir? Exactly.
Cap allows protects the fuse and allows it to penetrate the target deeper. Whereas in the case of
Right.
troops in the open, you require a direct impact. It is like a push button, thing or the thing. So the cap allows the bomb or the shell to penetrate into the fortification, and then once it breaks, then the actual fuse comes into contact, the brass, and ignites the rest of the bomb.
Like, I mean, I understood why it's needed for bunkers. You need to
Yeah.
penetrate and then explode.
Yeah. Now the thing is that we had these two types of ammunition. The high explosive ammunition was approximately 13.2 kgs, and it came in a canister which was approximately made its total weight at 15 kgs.
Acha, acha.
Cardboard canister, which was for ease of carriage during the deployment, or depending on what the operational task was. The smoke bomb was 14.2 kgs, and with the container it used to come to about 15 kgs. Now currently we even have the illumination ammunition, which is about 12.75 kgs and comes in the with the container comes to about 14 kgs. But I repeat, in 71 war, we did not have the illuminating ammunition. We did come across some illuminating ammunition and some airburst ammunition
Acha.
from the Pakistan army, because Pakistan army also were using the same 120 mm
Okay.
mortars. The caliber is being used in a lot of countries.
Mm-hmm.
Even Russia is using the same 120 mm caliber. China is also using the same caliber. Pakistan also using the same caliber. Bangladesh are also using the same caliber. So even the American army is using the same caliber. So it becomes very easy to use the ammunition of one country in the gun of another country.
Okay.
Okay. So there is no hard and fast. Oh, this is the Pakistani shell, so we won't use it. No. If it is 120, we can use it.
Acha, acha. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Now, yeah. Now we come to the weight of the thing, as I've told you. The ammunition comes normally packed in steel boxes.
Okay.
And in each box, there are two bombs or two shells. And in the box also, there is a separate box which contains the fuse
Acha, acha.
of the, because you don't keep the bomb fused. You don't keep it meshed with the fuse, because otherwise, if it is meshed to the fuse, it gets armed.
Mm-hmm.
And it can burst during the handling.
Mm-hmm.
So it is only when you are being asked to fire, then we get involved in an activity called preparation of the ammunition.
Acha.
So the ammunition comes with a lot of grease in it to protect.
Mm-hmm.
It is protective grease. So you clean the shell. There is a block on top which you unscrew with a screw, special vertical contraption.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, remove the fuse and then screw it on top of it and tighten.
Acha.
Okay. And then you lay it out, and then there is another container in the ammunition box which has got the charges. 1, 2, 3, 4, those are the propellants. So
Okay.
depending on the propellant which is being used, the charge which is used, that is the one which is put on the tail of the bomb,
Mortar. Acha, acha,
of the
acha.
shell. Now each what you call charge
Mm-hmm.
has got a different range, and the maximum norm range at charge 5 is 7.125 kilometers. But with special ammunition, with booster ammunition, we can go to 9.788 kilometers.
Okay.
But the minimum distance at which we can fire our gun is 500 meters, half a kilometer.
Okay.
Because when it is firing at 500 meters, it is firing virtually vertically upwards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to go beyond, then the bomb will go up and come and fall on you only.
Acha, acha.
So to prevent that sort of a scenario from happening, the gun is designed to only fire up to 79 degrees elevation,
Okay.
from the horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like this. So it will go up to here. Normally, longest distance it will be here,
Mhm.
but shortest distance it will come here. So the round goes up and comes down like this. But this lateral distance between the target and you
Mhm.
would be not more than 500 meters.
Acha.
Okay. So this is what you have to keep in mind. Now, as I was mentioning about the boxes,
Mhm.
the ammunition box with two shells in it, HE is about 47.5 kgs. The smoke is 49 kgs,
Mhm.
and aluminium and the illumination is 47 kgs.
Pretty heavy
Now,
shells. Very heavy.
yeah, very heavy. And actually, the weight is, as I told you, is 13 kgs,
Mm-hmm.
5 kgs. Okay. Now, there is certain miscellaneous data which I would like you to know, that each barrel has a life of about 5,000 rounds,
Acha.
which generally doesn't come about in its entire lifetime. Like a plane has got a lifespan of 40, 45 years. A gun also has a lifespan because it's a metal, it's a barrel. So as and when the rounds are fired, a certain amount of erosion takes place within the barrel. So when the erosion takes place in the barrel, the bomb or the shell does not fit properly into the barrel, and it can result in either a thing called bad ram or a what you call shortfall, or the bomb, because there is air on both sides, it will not go its complete distance and may fall short and may even fall on your own troops.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the reason why every barrel is got its life. The rest of the system does not have that much of worry, except the base plate. Because what happens is that the recoil of the gun is borne by the base plate, and the base plate keeps getting embedded into the
To this mud.
earth when you fire.
Right, right.
So a stage comes that when you have to extract and you have to move, then you have to get a vehicle with a winch to take out the base plate, because it would have gone a couple of feet into the anything up to 3.5 to 4 feet into the thing.
4 feet. Okay.
Yeah. So that is the kind, because if you are firing for prolonged periods from one gun position only, or one this thing, then there is every danger that this sort of a thing will happen.
Because sir, I can understand now how much trouble you must have gone through to fire on the soft soil of Bangladesh.
Yeah, I am coming to that. Now there are systems which are there. There are two types of systems. One is percussion type and the other is a control type.
Okay.
The percussion type is the one in which it is gravity fed. There is a setting below at the gun with a firing mechanism. You switch it from control to manual to percussion.
Okay.
Now, what does it mean is the percussion is that when you put the shell in it, it automatically fires. Because the firing pin would have been extended up into the barrel.
Achha.
So the moment it comes and hits the pin hits the base of the shell and it goes out. So this is normally used when we have to fire intense or rapid rates of fire, and it is only used for very, very short duration because it impacts the barrel. The barrel gets very hot. So we have to keep wet clothes like basin cloth or blankets wet, so that we have to wrap it around the gun to cool it down. Otherwise there is danger, it will burst.
While you're just putting it inside.
Yeah, if say for example, if you're firing, if you're firing for 20 minutes, continuous non-stop, there's every danger that the barrel could burst, depending on what is the life of the barrel. So normally you avoid giving it an order where the firing is so intense. And the other is the control one, that is with the lanyard. You fix it with a firing mechanism. You say ready to fire, and everybody steps back and you pull the lanyard and the trigger automatically and the barrel. And then the number two goes, he says load, number one says load, and number two gets the thing, around 4 and 5. Give him the ammunition. Number two loads, and number three meanwhile relays the gun, because it would have got a little shaken from its original. A few minutes it would have got, minutes are the degrees and minutes and seconds which are there in the horizontal plane.
Okay.
Ultimate plane. Okay. So they are there. Now this is this thing. Now the various types of rates of fire are 10 bombs per minute is intense.
Okay, like a barrage. From one
No,
mortar.
not a barrage. One mortar will fire intense. When it is given intense, it will fire 10 rounds in 1 minute. That means every 6 seconds there is a round going. You just load, it will fire. You load, it will fire. You load, it will fire. Okay. In Bangladesh war, I only fired the intense only once. There was a target called Dadumia's house, which was an enemy fortification.
What's the name?
And
sir?
I-
Dadu?
Dadu Mia's house.
Acha,
Dadu
acha.
Mia's house. And I had to fire intense for 10 minutes.
Okay.
That means I have fired each gun, fired 10 rounds in 10 minutes, that means 100 rounds. And six guns fired 600 rounds to destroy the target. There was nothing left of the target after some time.
It was a Pakistani fortification.
Yeah, Pakistani Buddhist. Now, the other one is rapid, which is 8 rounds per minute.
Hmm.
Then is normal, which is the normal one which is fire. Okay, there is 4 rounds per minute. That means every 1 round every 15 seconds. Then is slow. That means 2 rounds every minute. That means 1 round every 30 seconds. And very slow is 1, which means 1 round every minute.
Okay.
So it depends on what kind of a target is there. The forward observation officer or the OP officer will actually define for you what is the nature of the target and what is the quantum of fire to be brought on it.
Acha.
Okay.
I would like to, before we proceed further, sir, I would like to have a brief background of this bombardment of Dadu Mia's house.
I'll come to that at the end. I'll come to that at the
Okay,
end.
no problem, sir.
Okay, I'll come there. Huh? You see, what happened was
Mhm.
on 30th November 1971, we were deployed ready to go to war. We were deployed approximately half a kilometer south of the Agartala airport. My unit had been all throughout, the 82 Light Regiment had been deployed all throughout in Tripura and southern Tripura to be precise, Agartala and south of Agartala, right down to Amli Ghat, which is on the Feni River, is the BOP. So we, depending on the nature of tasks which were there, and we carried out regular firing on the East Pakistani is in Pakistanis in East Pakistan. And the nature of our task was, one was firstly harassing, to not let them take rest and irritate the hell out of them. The second one was to engage and damage or destroy the administrative supply that was taking place to them. Third was that in case any Mukti Bahini or any of our army people went in for some commando mission, which today is called surgical strike, then we are able to provide support to them and also provide fire to them when they need to return to India or extricate themselves if they are stuck up in a situation. So these were the situations which were there from June. I fired for the first time in East Pakistan on 25th June, and we kept firing till about October, till the orders came not to fire till further orders. But we did continue to fire in October and November also, because there were certain operations which took place in which we were involved. So that order was purely symbolic, but it was generic in nature. But some of us got involved in it and some of us did fire. But actual firing in the war, we started on 1st.
Okay.
The operation was of Nutcracker. It was to start on the code word of Tally-ho, which was that we had to cross, Tally-ho was the code word to cross the Indo-East Pakistan international border. And we were attacking the twin strong points of Akhoda and Ganga Sagar. Akhoda was in the north and Ganga Sagar was the south. About 6 to 8 kilometers was the lateral distance. My own guns were deployed to fire in the Akhoda sector. And one of the targets, out of the various targets which were given to me to engage, was this Dadu Mia's house, which was there, which was on the flank of the Akhoda railway station, and which was known to have Pakistani MMG and RCL guns, and was likely to interfere with our flanking attack from the left flank.
Mhm.
So it was very essential that I had to either destroy them or keep its head down, and that's why it was given the rate of fire of intense, like 10 rounds per minute by each gun. So 10 rounds per minute for 10 minutes we were given. So 100 rounds and 6 guns, 600. And when I did go to Akhoda after we had captured it, that place is absolutely like you see the ashes in, in the cremation ground
Right.
after the body was cremated, absolutely devastated. Nothing was there standing there on the ground. So that was the kind of damage that this equipment could do.
Wow.
In fact, it was more effective
Hmm.
in causing destruction than the other guns we had in the sector, that is 75-24, because their shell was 13 pounds, whereas our shell was 13 kgs.
Right.
Twice as, it was 4 times.
4 times. Yeah.
Okay, so that is what it is. So it was a most devastating this thing. And this 75-24 which was there, mind you, it was a good gun. It was at a range of 200 minimum safety distance, and its impact on bursting was 200 meters.
Hmm.
Whereas for the 120 Brandt, the safety distance was 350 meters, and the area of impact was also 350 meters.
Okay. I mean,
So it was one and a half times.
the maximum area the
Yeah,
shrapnel
so
could cover.
anything
Mhm.
in 350 meters would get hit. Now it depends on the proximity. If it was closer, he would probably be dead,
Mhm.
or the vehicle would get destroyed. If it was farther away, he'll definitely get wounded. But everybody would get definitely affected. If nothing else, you will come shell shocked.
Hmm.
Okay. The biggest advantage of this equipment was that it was designed, as I mentioned at the start of my talk with you, that it is designed to fire in a parabolic mode.
Mhm.
That is there. So it enables the engagement of targets which are on the reverse slope of the hills, which are not visible from your own side, enemy posts which are not visible.
Mhm.
Normally, what happens is in the military tactics, about 1/3 of the force is deployed in front in the defenses, and the 2/3 is behind till an opportune moment is required to move them forward. Okay. Mind you, the defenses for the whole force is existing.
Mhm.
So if there is a company of 120 men, only 40 will be holding the defenses in the front. 80 will be either resting or hiding or waiting. The reverse of a hill station. This is particularly in the mountains.
Acha.
So what normally happens is that when the artillery fire lifts due to the safety distance, the enemy, the defender knows now the artillery fire is lifted. They give another minute or two, they know now it's not going to fire. Then they come out of their safe positions from behind and come and occupy the defense area so that they can repulse the attack.
Mhm.
Now the mortar actually comes into effect, comes handy to keep them hitting where they were hiding.
Acha. Acha.
So they are not safe even when they are hiding.
Mhm.
In the flat trajectory gun, they are considerably safe.
Mhm.
But in a mortar, they are not safe. They are not safe anywhere in the world.
Right.
Okay. And like I said in the beginning, the mortar shell comes from the top,
Mhm.
and it gives warning. So the dispersal, even if say you were sitting on your thunderbox or your toilet seat in the latrine, it can come and kill you. Whereas a flat trajectory gun shell may actually go past you, go over your head, and go and hit somebody behind,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
you may be safe.
Mhm.
But this one comes and it bursts in a 360 degrees pattern. Whereas a shell bursts in a 45 degrees pattern.
Mhm.
So that is there. Now the vehicle can be carried, the gun can be carried in various formats.
Like I am presuming, sir, in Bangladesh, the availability of vehicles and the inhospitable terrain to carry these heavy weapons was not available.
This was not exactly, I wouldn't call it heavy because 550 kgs is not really heavy. 550 kgs, the other equipments are heavier.
Right, right, right.
It was not technically fall in the category of heavy, though of course it was heavier than 75-24 guns.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are different modes in which you can carry. One of them is by the vehicle, which I already explained at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Towed. The other is by helicopters, and the third is by mules.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the helicopters were used for the first time. It was used as a helicopter mode in the Bangladesh war, and I was singularly fortunate to participate in it. It was the famous Heliborne operations on 9th of December across the Meghna, in which 4 guards, along with 3 guns of 82 light,
Mm-hmm.
cubic battery, that is my battery, and I had gone across. I was the OP officer, and the battery subaltern was Subedar V. Kumaran. He followed me up with those 3 guns. I was OP with Alpha Company 4 guards, and we went in the first wave of helicopters, MI4s, and the rest of the lot ferried throughout the night till 4 o'clock in the morning. We had landed at a place called Methikanda railway station. We had captured the Methikanda railway station when we established the dropping zone. After landing in the dropping zone, we had to secure it. So when we were securing the dropping zone, one of the tasks we had was to secure the railway station. The reason was that the guns could not be dropped from the helicopters. They had to be landed.
Mm-hmm.
The men could be dropped, but ammunition and gun had to be landed. For that, you required a hard standing,
Mm-hmm.
and for that, the railway platform was required.
Acha.
So that's why we had to capture the railway station. It's a different matter that the station master's office became the officer's mess,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked far for us for that night.
Acha.
But that is what it is. That was the aim of capturing the railway station. Now, when we went in the Heliborne operations, we had a Mi-4, Mi-4 helicopter of the Russian Air Force, which we had bought in 63, which had the capacity to carry 1300 kgs. So with the pilot and the co-pilot and a loader, it was 300 kgs gone. So we were left with only 1000 kgs worth of load to be carried. That is 1 ton.
Mm-hmm.
Now how we executed it was that the gun, which I have mentioned to you, we did not load the carriage, the wheels. Wheels were left behind. And the gun without the wheels, approximately totaling 450 kgs, we loaded it in the helicopter, breaking into 3 parts: barrel, base plate, and pipe pod. We carried out 3 men with reduced detachment, as I said, 1, 2, and 3, which is 300 kgs. And then we loaded 16 rounds of ammunition. Okay, so that we had the 1000 kgs were more or less complete once the accessories were added. Okay, so that is how we had each helicopter carrying 1000 kgs, and each gun was being carried in one helicopter. So in the actual operation, the 3 guns went on the 9th of December. They were carried by 3 helicopters, each carrying 3 men and 16 rounds. Subsequently, when we had captured Narsingdi on 11th, and then the rest of the build-up took place on 11th and 12th, that was the time the guns were loaded and brought along with the detachments with the ammunition, but they were then ferried across. Whereas when we had gone in the assault. We had to secure the position. But when they came along on 11th and 12th, that area was already secure, they just came and landed.
Okay.
So that was the difference. You see, if you see the movies of the World War II,
Mm-hmm.
you saw the airborne troops.
Mm-hmm.
They went and secured secured the areas.
First,
The
right.
rest of the troops followed,
Mm-hmm.
and then they landed, and then they joined up with the force which is going to secure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even those troops which came by ship, they also landed in the areas which were secured by the paratroopers.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went in the first wave, the heliborne operation, we went to secure the dropping zone, and then in the dropping zone, it's normal practice that the guns are deployed in the center of the dropping zone in a 360-degree manner, because the attack or the threat to the dropping zone can come from any direction.
Right. Though, I
Okay.
mean, I would say this side of the Meghna was clear, that side was still.
No, but at that time we had gone across an Aliban operation.
Mm-hmm.
There was suspected to be an enemy between where we had landed the dropping zone and the Meghna River.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on the west of the Meghna, and between the Meghna and us, there was a likelihood of Pakistanis being there. So we had, as per our drill, we have to go and secure the area.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have a situation where we just go there and sit there, we have now come.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a drink. No, it's not like that. You have to secure the area, you have to deploy the people perimeter defense, you have to deploy the LMGs, you have to deploy secure guards, you have to also earmark the unidirectional lights for the next lot of helicopters to come in. Because after the first sortie of helicopters, it has become dark, because in Bangladesh it becomes dark by about 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
So the second sortie till morning were coming in dark. So they needed guidance from the ground where the dropping zone is. So the unidirectional lights were then lit up. They were with normal batteries, torch batteries,
Mm-hmm.
so that this thing would come, and when the helicopter landed and the contact was switched off, so that the battery could be conserved. And that is how the whole night we carried on. Of course, we had spare set of batteries.
Okay.
Now the other mode of carriage is mules. That is normally in mountains, in inaccessible areas, or where motor vehicle cannot go, or where a helicopter cannot carry. But today, most places there are helipads existing in such inaccessible areas,
Mm-hmm.
so we can carry. But in those days, in the 70s, we carried our mules in the Nifa area, now Arunachal area, on mule packs in certain areas where we were asked to deploy. Now, in that, we had a certain number of mules dedicated to each gun detachment. When I say each gun, it means the gun detachment. So the total of 5 mules is to be dedicated for one gun.
Okay.
One mule was to carry one barrel,
Mm-hmm.
one mule was to carry the base plate, one mule is to carry the bipod or tripod, and the fourth mule is to carry the accessories, all this thing and all, and the other paraphernalia. And the fifth used to carry ammunition, 2 bombs on this side and 2 bombs on this side. Remember I told you the metallic canister.
Right.
So they used to be hooked, they had hooks on the side,
Mm-hmm.
they used to be hooked onto this thing, and they used to be hung on
So
the
for one gun, you need
the
about
harness.
5 mules.
Yeah, and the harness used to be there. They had hooks on the harness, they used to be. And one battery required 96 mules to carry. 4 horses were there also there for the officers, and 96 mules were there. That is a troop was there of mules. Out of these 96 mules, 88 were for the guns, the command post, the ammunition, and 8 mules were there to carry the fodder and water for the remaining 88.
Acha.
Because they also require to be replenished. They will feel thirsty, they will feel hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 mules used to be there, and at times when the thing was more inaccessible, and we required to be there, likely to be there for a longer duration, then instead of 8 mules carrying the administrative equipment, the goods, we had 16 mules carrying, and the ammunition or other accessories fetched up later on.
Acha.
Because food and the hay and the chana for the muse is very essential.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things which are there for the muse. Now we have used this gun in Bangladesh from 25th June when we opened up on the thing, and the last we fired was at 9:30 on 16th of December when the ceasefire was enforced.
9:30 a.m.
Yeah, 0930
Okay.
AM on 16th was there because that is the time the ceasefire came into effect. So we had a long experience of firing into Pakistan,
Mm-hmm.
East Pakistan, then now Bangladesh, and I honestly have to take into the history of the unit as to how many rounds are fired in the war, how many rounds are fired before the war, and how many rounds are fired in the actual war. That I have to check. I'm afraid I don't have the data with me, but that's what it is. Now that brings me to the end of my talk with you.
Wonderful,
Any
sir.
other question? Any other questions you want to ask me? I'm ready to answer. Mind you, one more thing I would like to add. This equipment is very much in service.
Okay, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the most effective weapon systems.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Though it has now, its utilization has got undergone a slight change tactically, but I will not give that out here.
Okay. That's fine, sir. I mean, according to the perspective of 71, I think you have give the enough length and breadth of the equipment, sir. I
So
had
that,
one question, sir. Like it's a very basic thing. I remember in our last talk you were talking about the fighting in Shalda Nodi area. So as you said, the place had a lot of hills, and you had. I mean, I'm presuming that you had to fire on Pakistani positions without, I would say, like getting to know where they were exactly from whatever information you had from the ground.
no, have you finished with the question?
Yes, sir. I mean, you can proceed,
Okay.
sir.
You see, what happened was, there is this pocket called the Salda Nadi pocket. The
Mm-hmm.
Salda Nadi makes a horseshoe ingress into India. And on the other side of the ingress,
Mm-hmm.
at a distance of about kilometer or a kilometer 0.25, is the Kasba railway station. The railway line from Chittagong to Gangasagar, Akhoda, and on to Dhaka passes through Kasba railway station. It's a very important Kasba railway station there. Now, the border between India and East Pakistan was so demarcated that the hills were on the Indian side
Mm-hmm.
and the plains were on Pakistan side.
Acha.
So where the front of the hill finished and leveled with the ground, the border ended. Sorry, the border started.
Started.
And they had markers, white markers, to depict the borders, and each marker was separated from the other by 100 meters. So the boundary, there was no proper boundary marked as you have a football field or a hockey field or a cricket field. But it was taken generally that from one boundary pillar to the next boundary pillar, the straight line was the boundary. And there is the standard format not only in India or in Pakistan, across the world. The two boundary pillar markers, the straight line joining them is the.
Okay.
So we were deployed on a hillock which was bang on the IB. The front of that was exposed to the Pakistanis.
Mm-hmm.
The base of it ended into Pakistan, and we were deployed on the reverse of the same hill.
Kumilla Brahmanbadia Road. Right, sir?
No, Brahmanpada is
No,
way up north.
you said CNB.
This is Chittagong to,
Okay.
yeah, from Chittagong to Gangasagar.
Mm-hmm. That road.
Kasba comes in between.
Right, right.
Okay, that's what it is. And we engaged Pakistan. We came under shelling for the first time on 25th of June. And those days, we were had the authority to fire back. So the moment I came under fire, moment the shelling was over, I took a little time, let the settling down of the gun position, and also to take into account that the Pakistanis don't open up again. And then 5 minutes later, I opened up. They fired 18 rounds, I also fired 18 rounds. So with my 6 guns, I fired 3 rounds each. I would like to just say one or two more things. That when we deploy behind the hill, there's a normal position we deploy these 120 Brandt mortars are normally deployed behind the hill. Okay. So it can only be engaged by the enemy's mortars.
Mm-hmm.
Because the flat trajectory guns, the fire will go behind us.
Acha.
Only a howitzer,
Mm-hmm.
a howitzer is a gun which fired like a mortar. It's a gun which fired like a mortar. That means up to 45 degrees is fired like a gun. And beyond 45 degrees to 79 degrees, 1 minute, it fired like a mortar. It can fire behind the hills. So a howitzer can engage a mortar, and a mortar can engage a howitzer, but a gun cannot engage a mortar because a mortar, if it is deployed behind a hill.
Mm-hmm.
The second reason why we deploy behind a hill is that the hill acts as an acoustic stabilizer, minimizer.
Mm-hmm.
The sound gets dispersed laterally. It doesn't spread ahead, forward. Because forward is the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, the visual signature of the gun is not there because when a gun fires, the flash is there and then the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
So if the hill is there, the flash is not seen so much, and it gets, if the hill is higher, then the flash of the 120 Brandt
Mm-hmm.
will not be visible.
So will not
So,
be the smoke. Yeah.
so the enemy would not know where the gun position is.
Right.
But the disadvantage is because it has got a parabolic feature.
Mm-hmm.
The Pakistani ANTPQ 37,
Mm-hmm.
which the Americans have given and which we also have now after I think 84 or so, is the one which is a mortar locating radar, MLR. That is specifically designed. Its radars are specifically designed to locate mortars. The ANTPQ 35 is actually only for guns, but ANTPQ 37. So we were actually throughout the war, we were technically never safe from the Pakistan artillery, and that's why we did suffer casualties of 2 guns in the initial stages of nutcracker on 3rd and 4th of December, because 2 of the enemy shells came and landed, one in my battery.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, many other shells landed in my battery, but one of them landed near the gun position, and the gun got damaged, and we lost 2 men. And the other gun, that is the Romeo battery, the gun was totally sliced because of the barrel was sliced. In my case, the battery was damaged, the barrel was damaged, but in the other case, the barrel was absolutely sliced, like you slice a banana with a knife.
Okay.
And they also had 2 casualties. So my casualties basically wounded, but their casualties around my battery were 2 dead.
2 dead.
So it is there, yeah. So it is something which, but then at that stage we were not deployed behind a hill.
Mm-hmm.
We were deployed in flat plains. Because Agartala airport is in a plain area.
Mm-hmm.
And we were deployed south, about 250 to 500 meters south of it. So that's what it is.
Okay. It's a wonderful talk, sir. I mean, so much knowledge in this entire package regarding
No,
it.
it is. Thanks to you, it has given me an opportunity to recap my childhood in the armed forces and refresh
Mm-hmm.
the equipment I started my career with.
Right.
And even now, I tell you, it's one of the most robust, one of the most deadly equipments.
Mm-hmm.
Which now the rockets have come with longer ranges.
Mm-hmm.
But remember one thing, Devu, the utility of the 120 Brandt mortar will never go out of operations. Even 100 years from now, it will be used there because it's like a pistol. You are armed.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you are getting close quarters, when you are face to face,
Mm-hmm.
you still have a pistol to fire back.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a Sten machine carbine or a Sten gun to fire back,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a rifle to fire back. So take the Brandt mortar, Brandt gun, 120 Brandt gun in that context. Don't think it is a gun only which is because of limited range it is out of fashion. No, it will never go out of fashion. It will continue to provide close protection to the infantry or the tanks when they are operating, especially the APCs when they are operating
Mm-hmm.
against the.
Right, sir. Thanks to you, I mean, I could get this out, sir, and so that more people get to know about what your unit, and I mean, all of you did with this equipment for this, I mean, the liberation of Bangladesh. I mean, this is where the Indian Army's use of even what I can say any kind of equipment that we are given and we sort of like master it. That's what history has taught us. I think this
Yeah.
fact, I mean, of your talk proves it very well, sir.
Now let me just add one thing which I seem to have missed out.
Mm-hmm.
When we had hilly landed on 9
Mm-hmm.
at the Metikanda railway station, from there till 11, when we reached Narsingdi, we carried this gun man pack.
Okay.
We managed to get bamboos and get straps
Mm-hmm.
or ropes, and 2 or 3 or 4 people would carry it like a palki.
Acha, I say.
The barrel, or the base plate, or the bipod, because these three, for the ammunition, we carried on our shoulders because it was in canisters.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere during the day, middle of the day, or maybe close to about 3 o'clock, we found the local villagers who keep coming and saying Joy Bagla and all those things and volunteering to carry it for us.
Acha.
But we couldn't allow them to do it because there were also a possibility that some of them could be Razakars,
Mm-hmm.
who were locals, who were pro-Pakistanis.
Right, right.
So we couldn't take those chances. Now it was around this time that we came across 3 empty carriages on the railway track.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were walking along the railway track, you imagine carrying the gun across the railway track on the bridge over a river
Mm-hmm.
with no sidings on the other side. You're just walking in the middle of the railway. So
Okay.
that is the kind of movement it was from Nithikanda to Narsingdi. But once we reached closer to Narsingdi, about an hour or two,
Mm-hmm.
we came across these containers, carriages, vehicles, these compartments, empty ones. We put the wagons, covered wagon, the normal 6 metric ton covered wagon you have on the railway. So we put the guns in it, we put the ammunition in it, and we started pushing it.
Acha.
Okay, and then some distance ahead we found an abandoned engine which was still running.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some boys who knew how to operate an engine. So we hooked it up and chuk we carried on till Narsingdi. And about a kilometer short of Narsingdi, we stopped and unloaded. The funny part was that many a times when we were moving toward Narsingdi, we would go on the wrong track. So we would find that dead end there, so we would stop there, we would reverse and then come back, and then there was this switch gear,
Right.
Tata, which was there, we would do it manually, change the tracks, and then we'd carry on. So it was like a moment
My
of the night.
goodness. Yeah.
But there
I've
was a
heard this
memorable
story.
one.
I've heard the story of RCL guns being carried like this on
Yeah,
bamboos. Yeah.
yeah. No, but we have carried this. Unfortunately, we were at that time not having cameras to take the picture of what we were doing because everything was on man-pack basis. We were not carrying cameras, we were carrying guns and ammunition.
Right, right.
We are on man-pack basis, we are carrying 25 kgs. And even 1 gram of weight was undesirable.
Yeah. Right, sir.
So even 1 gram of weight you could feel. So if you had finished your lunch, you felt relieved that at least about a couple of grams, 100 grams, 200 or 400 grams of weight is less. Ah, shukar hai. Itna wadan kam hua. It was like that.
Okay.
So anything else you would like to, uh,
Yeah.
because we are trained to carry out things in a sequence. That's one of the greatest things of an artillery man, that he is a perfectionist. He carries out everything in precise. Like every person is given a task that you are supposed to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 2 is supposed to do this task. Number 3 is this task is outlined. Of course, you are trained to carry out the other tasks also, but this is one where you
Right, sir. I mean, I understand that 1 minute either udhar and the target is somewhere else.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, because what happens is that 1 degree at 1,000 yards, at a distance of 1,000 yards horizontally, is leads as a dispersion of 17 yards.
Okay.
Lateral dispersion. That means if these are the two fingers here, this will be the 17 yards will be there. So if it is 3,000 meters, it will be 50 meters. If it is 100 meters, it will be 1,700 meters.
Acha.
So you just keep applying, multiplying 17 with the next number, depending on the distance, and that will be the lateral dispersion. So we need to get the round as close as possible to the target as is possible.
Acha, acha. Okay. Thank you, sir, again for your talk, and I mean, really, really honored of speaking on this equipment, sir. I mean, in such nitty-gritty details. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I should have started with thanking you in the beginning, but I think the thanks I reserved for the end. Thank you very much and look forward to greater interaction with you. in future.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Take care.
Jai
sir.
Hind.
Jai Hind.